Welcome back to the channel, everybody. Today I'm going to go over the top 3 tips for desert off-road survival. This is intended for people who are not used to desert climates. Those of you who are from desert areas are familiar with it. This is not going to apply to you. But for those of you that are not used to the desert environment, we're going to talk about 3 big helpful safety tips that will help you survive off-roading in the desert. They're not intuitive, and that's the important thing. So let's jump right into it. Tip number 1 is when you're off-roading in the desert, don't drink water. Now, you all know what this is, and when it gets hot and you sweat, you're supposed to drink this, right? Well, not in the desert. And the desert we're in is the Mojave Desert, which is high and dry, and it encompasses four different states. And when you go off-roading out here, you might be tempted to drink a lot of this and chug a lot of this, but that's really not the best thing for you. Now, don't get me wrong, you're definitely going to want to bring water, but let me tell you a quick and interesting story about how I ended up in the hospital when I first moved here over 10 years ago. And it was a hot day like this, about 113 degrees out, and I was exerting myself and kept drinking water because, hey, when it's hot, you drink water. Being from the humid side of the country, I thought that was okay. Long story short, I ended up in the hospital. Started feeling squirrely, and I couldn't figure out why. I was drinking my water. What was wrong? And when I got to the hospital, the doctor kind of had a, let's just say a surly look about her, as if she'd seen a million of me, and I was the millionth idiot to come in there in this condition. And she looked at me and she said, "You can't drink water out here in the desert." I said, "What do you mean?" She said, "You need electrolytes." And that's tip number 1. You're going to want to bring with your off-roading in the desert a form of electrolyte, okay? This here is called liquid IV. You can get whatever you want, even Gatorade works fine. But you simply cannot have just water out here. This particular liquid IV comes in a nice pack. You rip it open, you mix it with your water. And then you'll have your minerals, because in essence, I know this now, you know, our bodies are essentially biological electrical systems, and these minerals are the same stuff that's in the ground. You need these minerals, these rocks, in order to feel well. And so if you're out here off-roading and you're just drinking water and you have to go hike a trail, you have to go walk and check out a line, go up a few hills, or even help someone out, or change a tire, do anything where you have to exert yourself in this tremendous dry heat, water is not going to cut it. The reason why water doesn't cut it in a dry heat is you don't realize how much you're sweating. In the humid areas of the nation, when you drink a lot of water and you're out in the heat, what'll happen is you'll start to soak with sweat. You know you're soaked with sweat. You know it's time to chill out. You know it's too hot, you take a break. What happens in the dry side of the country, such as out here in the Mojave Desert, you're going to sweat, but it's going to evaporate quickly. So quick you won't realize how much water, but more importantly, electrolytes that you're losing. And you'll start to feel what I call squirrely when you're out of electrolytes. They're on the back, all the minerals, sodium. The main things are sodium, magnesium. There's other stuff in here. Don't worry about it. This is what you want. When you run out of that stuff, though, you start to feel that squirrely feeling. You don't feel well. And I've seen other people post videos out here in the desert who are not from here. And like me, and I've been in the desert for over 10 years, so but when I first moved here, like me, they're thinking, water's enough. They go out on the trail, it's a hot day, they start walking the trail, getting out, taking pictures, helping their friends out, and suddenly they're starting to feel a little squirrely, feel a little weird, okay? The solution to that is electrolytes. So what you'll want to do when you're off-roading in the desert is, of course, still have your water. it's not really don't bring water. It's just you want to mix this with some sort of electrolyte. Liquid IV, Gatorade, even salt and sugar if you have it laying around. Well, that will replenish your electrolytes and your mental clarity and your bodily functions, your heart, your lungs, all those things you need will start to feel better, and you'll be okay. If you don't do that, you'll end up in a hospital, and what they'll do is put you in a real IV, and they'll, like the doctor did when I ended up in the hospital, you'll get the IV line in you, and guess what's in that bag? This stuff. And then you'll start to feel better, and they'll send you home with a $300,000 hospital bill. So that's tip number one. Don't simply just drink water out here. You've got to have some form of electrolyte. If you don't have liquid IV or Gatorade or salt or sugar, make sure you're snacking on something that's salty, like pretzels, candy, junk food, anything that has minerals in it, salts and sugars. That's going to make you feel better. After a while, you'll learn the difference between thirst, when you're thirsty, and when you're lacking electrolytes. There's actually a difference. When you're thirsty, it's hard to explain, but once you're out in the desert long enough, you can recognize the difference. Drink very little water, only little sips as needed when you feel thirsty. And the best way I could describe it is when you're thirsty, when you get this water, you'll chug it like you're a kid, and you just feel yourself gulp, 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 gulping down the water. That's how you know you're thirsty. If you don't feel that tendency that, oh man, I need to gulp down some water, you're not thirsty. If you're feeling something else where I don't feel right, I feel kind of squirrely, like I call it, right? That means you need electrolytes. You got to rebalance yourself. So what I do is make sure to mix a little bit of this and sip it as you're going, and you'll learn after a while to balance what you need based on the weather, based on your exertion, and you'll kind of be in this electrolyte balance, so to speak, and you're going to be your healthiest off-road. A lot of people get in trouble out here year after year because of these electrolyte deficiencies. I am a perfect example of that. I ended up in the hospital, so please take your electrolytes when you're off-roading in a hot, dry desert climate. Okay, desert survival off-road tip number 2. And this again is counterintuitive unless you are familiar with hot and dry climates. And that is wear more clothes, not less. So this is okay, but you certainly wouldn't want to be shirtless or have a tank top on. And that may seem counterintuitive. It's hot out, take your clothes off. But not so in the desert. You're actually going to want to wear, if you're going to be exposed to the sun, a long sleeve shirt, such as this. Okay? Now, of course, you don't have to wear this if you're in your car or your truck and you're off-roading with the air conditioner on, or you're fine with the windows down. But if you're going to be walking around outside, getting in and out, walking lines and spotting things and spending a lot of time taking photography, and you're in the desert, wear long sleeves. This is going to seem counterintuitive even on a 120-degree day. You're going to want to wear long sleeves because out here in a hot and dry climate, it's all about the solar radiation, not the air humidity or the air temperature, but that direct sunlight hitting your skin and heating you up. So by wearing more clothes, you actually block the sun from you. Now, if this seems crazy, look at what the people over in the Middle East and the Saharan Desert in Africa, what they wear. What do they wear? Well, they wear those robes with the slits in front of their eyes, and they're all covered up in these robes in the middle of these scorching hot deserts. And you think, wow, they must be crazy. But it's actually the best way. They know what they're doing. It's essentially this. They're wearing a long sleeve outfit that blocks the sun's rays from hitting them. So again, it seems counterintuitive if you're from the humid side of the country where you would never do that on a hot day. But when it's hot out here in the desert and you're going to be out and you're like, I got to get out, from this vehicle and again hang around the trail exposed to the sun, walk around, exert myself, etc., you're going to want to actually block that sun from hitting your skin, just like those Bedouin people that either wear the black or white robes in deserts that are way hotter and drier than the Mojave Desert. It works. Out here, when you see workers on the side of the road or roofers on the roof, on a scorching hot 116-degree day, they will be wearing full-on long sleeves. They'll have something up against their neck, long pants, on a roof, a hot roof, baking in the sun, and they'll be fine because it's actually, the fabric is actually blocking the sun's rays from hitting your skin. So again, it's going to seem counterintuitive if you're not used to that, but it can mean the difference when you're out alone on the trail between getting fatigued and getting squirrely or getting in trouble, and the difference between that and maximizing your energy and your mental sharpness, which will help you enjoy your off-roading experience more or save you in an emergency. So wear clothes. Also, real quick, hat, not optional. So hats aren't optional here. You gotta wear a hat no matter what. Same exact principle. It keeps it off your head, okay? Even if you have hair, wear a hat. It will make you cooler. You can't just take your hat off, again, like on the humid side of the nation and say, well, I feel cooler without a hat. No, same thing. You're not gonna want those sun rays beating against your head. So you always see people working on roofs out here in the dead of summer with big old hats on and full long sleeve attire. It'll keep you cooler. All right, everybody, now for the third and final off-road desert survival tip that I could give you, and that is tell somebody exactly where you plan to go before you leave. In case you get in trouble, they'll know where you're going. Maps brings up everything. You can put a pin anywhere. Put a pin on your start and finish point and send it to a friend or a family member so they know where you went. In case you do get in trouble, they'll know where to look for you. That's very important, and it ties into something I'm going to add to this, which is if you do break down, if you do get in trouble out here in the desert, especially during the middle of the day, do not panic and do not leave your vehicle or where your location where you're at. The worst thing you could do is get trapped at 12 noon with 113 degree or more temperatures, leave your car or your truck and go walk for help. The dry heat out here affects you in ways I can't explain, in ways that just don't exist in other places where you think are hot. And what will happen is you'll end up underestimating the heat, the fatigue it brings, your stamina, and like we talked about in the beginning, your hydration and electrolyte levels. What will happen is the first thing that'll hit you is your head, because you're not drinking electrolytes, you went out for your walk, you're only drinking water, you're gonna start feeling squirrely, your mental facilities will start going, you're not gonna go remember which direction, you're gonna start panicking, which will make you sweat more, which makes you lose electrolytes more, and that's when tragedies happen. Out here, a tragedy happens every single year between here and Joshua Tree National Park, which is right behind me. So every year there's a tragedy, and the scenario is the same. Somebody gets stuck off-road, whether they're in a 4x4 or a regular sedan, and it's usually during the height of the day, the hottest part of the day, during the hottest months of the year, and they will panic, and they will get out and leave their loved one or the person they're with to go get help, and they won't make it because of the things I just mentioned. So the best thing to do is stop, don't panic, stay where you are, tell somebody where you went, and have them come looking for you. If you must walk, wait until the sun goes down. That'll give you 7 hours, 6 to 7 hours in the summer to get somewhere. But the absolute safest thing to do is just stay put. If you're on a main trail and you told somebody where you were going, and you don't show up in the time that you told them, but you sent your start and end points, they're going to know something's wrong, and they're either going to come for help, or they'll send some sort of rescue service for you. You're safest in the shade in your own car. But if you absolutely must have to leave the car, do it at night. To reiterate, every year there's people dying out here because they leave their vehicle and go walking. So on some of these videos you've seen a skull and crossbones of warning people have died out here. That's true, unfortunately, because they left their vehicle. The heat hits you out here like you're not prepared for it. So stay put. Tell someone where you're going. Don't leave your car unless you absolutely have to, and if you do, leave at night. All right, everybody, that concludes our top 3 desert survival tips for off-roading. Now, please keep in mind, I am by no means some desert commando or specialist, but I have lived out here for over a decade in the Mojave Desert in some pretty harsh conditions, and learned a lot of things firsthand. And we've seen a lot of tragedies, unfortunately. So please remember to try to remember these tips. They could help save your life or the life of someone else. And just in general, they'll make your overall off-roading experience out here in the desert more enjoyable, more safe, and therefore more fun. So if you found this video the least bit helpful, please consider liking and subscribing. Thank you. Have a good day.